Go Yes For You intro it.
Thank you for throwing me onto the bus. Good evening, everybody. Tonight we have You're such a jerk.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the Gig Economy Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Tonight we actually have a B-side. We have Faith from Dash or Pass. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It takes... It started out easy when you started doing these interviews, and then all of a sudden it dried up a little bit, and then we're like, Faith out of the wilderness said, "Hey guys, I'm alive.
Hello.
I'd love to come on." So anyways, thanks for joining us tonight. Faith has a YouTube channel, Dash or Pass. Isn't currently doing a ton of gig work, but has a couple of years of grinding. So we're going to talk about that today. First, Faith, where did you primarily drive for your gig when you were doing it full time?
So primarily, I like to say the outskirts of Boston, but because I don't live over there anymore, specifically like the Worcester area, if anyone's like familiar with Massachusetts.
Okay. I think I've definitely heard of that.
Yeah, but I mean, I have dashed all over this country at this point for various situations. Some, me naively taking a road trip and not realizing how much gas costs and getting stuck in a city and having to dash my way out of it.
Seriously, so you've traveled doing DoorDash?
Yeah, when I was younger and stupider, I was like, "Oh, I can do that. I can do that." And you realize you have $10 in your account and like 600 miles to go, and you're like, "Oh, I can't actually do this. I might live in Ohio now, so gotta figure that out."
Do you know if you can DoorDash anywhere in the country if they have that service?
Yeah, so like before I even started that road trip, I was like worried. I knew DoorDash I was probably going to be able to rely on, but at the time my favorite was like Uber Eats. And so many things I was reading online, and maybe I just got lucky with the states I was crossing, but so like I was saying, so many things online said you can't use the same account in different, and I'm sure probably for like insurance reasons, right?
Yeah.
Like car insurance, I would assume. But no, I didn't. At least at the time, I did not run into that situation. And every state I crossed, I was able to Dash and Uber Eats with no problem. It just relocated me and gave me the new markets to go for.
Interesting.
Now I can't say the same for where I'm at right now, Vermont. There's just like, I mean, if I was a little more responsible and my phone wasn't at 1%, I would pull up DoorDash right now and show you. There's just nowhere to dash over here.
Okay.
Absolutely nowhere.
But you can dash, but there's nobody who's using the service. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I think it's a good combination of the population out here just not really being familiar with it, and the fact that, there's one gas station in the town I live in, and I have to drive like 45 minutes to even go get my groceries.
Oh.
And that hub that I go to has like 2 restaurants in it. So it's like there's really not a lot out here. I'm like deep in the wilderness, which I love. It's very quiet and peaceful. Everyone, I think one of my favorite things about Vermont is like, especially having driven in Massachusetts for 8 years, people like drive 2 miles behind each other. Like it is astounding how respectful people are driving out here. Like Miss Little Betty, she'll give you like 10 minutes of space between you. Like everyone is just so chill. They're relaxed. They got nowhere to be. It's just the vibe out here is immaculate.
That's
amazing. To say the least.
That's amazing. So when you were in Massachusetts, you did full time, and obviously your YouTube name is Dash or Pass. So I'm assuming you just did DoorDash or Uber Eats too. No, just food delivery.
Yeah, just food delivery. Especially when I first started. I did start with DoorDash, and that alone, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this either, but very overwhelming when you like first open the apps, right? And you don't even think about bringing other things into that situation. But once I got comfortable with it, it was Pandora's box. I just kind of downloaded every delivery app I could.
Yeah.
I did try like Amazon Flex. What was the other one? I never could get into the grocery shopping. I don't even like grocery shopping for myself. I'm definitely not grocery shopping for anyone else. I
You're
was
talking about Shipped?
yeah, Shipped, Instacart,
Yep, yep.
anything like that. I just could not do it. I've seen the
Okay.
payouts; they look good, but
Was there a unique app over there you think that was unique to your area for delivery that maybe we haven't heard of before?
unique.
Like,
If the no, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say because like a lot of times people come on and they talk about this app and I'm like, oh my gosh, why isn't this? Because we're from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm like, why isn't it here? And then they're like, no, this is sweet, just in our area. So I was just curious if
Yeah, no, I wish there was something like that, but no, at least not to my knowledge. Yeah, I was just kind of so zoned in on the food delivery, and it was working out so well for me. I didn't really, see. I didn't research anything beyond that, to be honest. So there probably was, but I wasn't aware of it.
okay.
Um,
Okay. So when you were driving full time, Faith, did you kind of have a schedule you were kind of trying to drive all the time, or how was that?
yeah, I wouldn't say I definitely was more laissez with it. I didn't have so much of a schedule. I just like, okay, I need this much, to pay
Yeah.
rent this month.
Okay. So it was more of you had like a budget you had to get to.
Yes,
What was your best days? Did you kind of have I have to like I only drive passengers, right? I know when I drive I got to do Friday Saturday,
right.
and otherwise it's just not worth it. So did you have days like that for Dash?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like always Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Honestly, the only bad day in my market, I think just because of how congested, that metropolitan was, it was really just like I think Tuesday that I really didn't bother going out, but
Okay.
most of the nights were I was hitting, decent numbers, but I think like probably the best I ever had I wanna say it was, like, 2 and I'm pretty sure it's on my channel, but I think it was somewhere between 200 and 300 within, like, a 10-hour day, I think, and
Okay.
that never happened again, it was just a one-off, like, very, very lucky on that.
So about how much were you making an hour average?
I would say on average between 16 and 18, which sounds like a lot maybe to some people, especially at that time. I know minimum wage
Yeah.
has gone up a lot, at least for the Northeast states. But at the time when you like, looking back on it, when you factor in like the taxes and the gas and everything, that probably brings it down to like 14, 15, so
Mhm.
decent for the minimum wage in the area, but no, I think I'll leave it at that. It was decent.
Yeah. I mean, and it's worth not having a boss, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
can do
exactly.
work whenever you wanted to, and yeah, so that's good.
When before we started, you had talked about back in the 2 years when you were grinding it, and you talked about like how hard it was to do that and how stressful. What are some of the things that really stood out about the gig work that was like, I mean, other than the money, right? Of course, obviously. I mean,
Right.
that's what we all do it for. I mean, we don't do it for fun, but I
Mm,
mean, sometimes it's fun, but like
yeah.
what part of that work was just like just tough for you that stood out that was hard to do?
I think and it's probably the main thing for a lot of people too, but after working a full-time job again, a W-2, and just having that steady paycheck come in biweekly and knowing I'm gonna get this set amount, I don't have to take all these taxes, I don't have to worry about gas, I don't have to worry about putting a ton of the money I make for that week doing gig work towards a brand new car that I know I'm gonna need here in the next few years just because of how much I'm driving this thing into the ground, right?
Yeah.
And then also, stressing about possible repairs, and I became, like, so numb to that stress. So I would say the main thing was definitely just making sure I'm hitting the numbers every day, having expendable income as well, and not just, like I said, constantly putting money away to repair my car, to buy a new car, and Yeah, honestly, I think the vehicle maintenance was probably like the biggest stress for me. Like just worrying, is it gonna break down today? Am I like,
Yeah.
like
At least you were doing some work on the back end to save money for that. I mean, it's
Right.
probably not as much as you would have liked, but
no, absolutely not. And that's like I said, with the W-2 I'm working now, like it's a 5-minute drive to work, and I get just like I said, I get so used to it, and I only really started thinking about this because anytime I'm back in Massachusetts, I still take the opportunity if I have time to like because my market is still amazing. I didn't think it was going to be as good, especially like just I still keep up a little on the back end of like I don't know, like gig politics, I guess. Just like what's going on with the apps and like what they're,
Yeah.
yeah.
like the hourly stuff that they're trying to push. Just all these like guardrails they're trying to put up for something that was just so free before and like I could play the game the way I wanted to. So
Mhm.
and not to get off topic, but I think even at the time, if I didn't move to Vermont and it wasn't desolate with all these like changes rolling out and going into it, I think I would have stopped anyways because like I said, I just can't play the game the way I want to. They're forcing me to play it a certain way. And that
Right.
wasn't
100%. Yeah.
that was not the reason I got into it to begin with, you know? Like
Yeah, I've even, I joke about it, but like this summer, I am a school bus driver, and so I had off in the summer. I worked more gig work. I couldn't even get on DoorDash. Like it's gone away. It used to be like you could just pop on, and now
yeah,
if you could get on, it's busy. They only give you 1 hour, and it's just like if you're not a top dasher, we don't want you. And I get it, but I also love I call it being pirate, you know what I mean? Where you're just like Uber Eats, you just throw it on. Like you get what you get, and if you don't get anything, fuck it. You move on. And if you do, great. But DoorDash is
yeah.
like they have all these walls built up and you have to jump into all three of these boxes before you can even get a chance at it.
Exactly, and that kinda ties back in I'm lucky because and I just dashed, like, recently, it was just nice to, like, have I'd honestly, wanted to see what it was like, if they had rolled out a lot of those changes in that specific market, which they haven't for some reason. I don't know when they're going to, but I was just like, "Okay, well, maybe I'll just give it a shot," and it was still, like, really good money, I'm not gonna lie, like,
Yeah.
very enticing, but, it's not worth the 4-hour drive that I now live.
Well, yeah.
Um,
I mean, I
Right.
think if you lived in a market, if you let's say you had the W-2 back where you lived before, I think you'd probably do it for some extra side money. I mean, everyone.
absolutely.
I mean, Jesper does. I do it. Like it's nice every once in a while to go, kill it on a weekend and make an extra $500 or $600. You're
Right.
like, shit, like that was easy.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that, like, that ties into, the other point we were talking about, like, it doing that again just made me think, like, "Wow, I'm, like, actually enjoying this again." Like, I didn't realize how much I hated it, because you just get so numb to it, and you're just
Yeah.
like, "It's another day, whatever," but, I was just like, "Man, I don't care that I'm sitting at Papa Gino's for 40 minutes right now waiting on,
40
what
minutes.
what pizza." I'm like, "You know what? Take your time." I'm just such a happier person,
Mhm.
it was just
Yeah, I totally get it. So let's jump into the creator part. Obviously, you have a YouTube channel. Originally, when you started out that channel, what was your goal by doing that? I mean, we all like to create for obvious reasons that people that are on YouTube, but is that wasn't it an outlet for you? Were you trying to become monetized? Were you just trying to connect with people?
yeah, I think it was more of, the latter, an outlet and definitely connecting with people because like when you do this it's a very lonely job
Right.
and honestly when I did first start it kind of transcended into that because when I first started as I mentioned when you're learning to use the gig apps it's very overwhelming they don't like especially during the pandemic they were not giving you any information on how to use them
Oh, no.
and so like I think like a lot of people I turned to YouTube right and started
Mhm.
looking up tutorials and we use the term again, but like somehow got into like the political side of gig work, which
Uh,
for me is like the ride alongs and people's opinions and stuff. YouTube just started feeding that to me. And as I was like getting more into that side, this one name kept popping up, which was gig insurance company Cover. I don't know if
Yep.
you
we talked about them for a
heard or
bit. Yep.
Weren't they a sponsor, Jesper, for a little bit?
Cobra was sponsored for this. Yep.
Yeah.
they were for like a lot of people. I want to say like 90% of the gig tubers I was watching, I just kept seeing Cover and Cover and Cover. And as a new driver, I was like, oh, I want to be responsible. Like I want to have gig insurance, whatever the hell that means. I want to have protection.
Yeah.
And so before I give anyone my money, especially growing up with the internet, like I researched them to make sure I'm not like getting screwed over for what I'm giving them. And that just kind of like led me. I don't even. I think it was like 1 a.m. too, and I just led me down this like really. I started going down this really deep rabbit hole where things were just like smelling a little fishy, and I was like, you know what? Like, I think it'd be cool to record this and have like an authentic reaction before like even really diving into it and realizing that yeah, I feel like this is a scam and so. So I just like turned on the camera and just recorded my entire like deep dive into them, posted that, like edited it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is actually kind of fun. Like I wasn't even thinking about like monetization or anything, but like it was just really fun to do that. And I feel like I don't know, like I started a little conversation, about it, and yeah, like Steve linked it down there. That was literally like, my first video, and somehow I don't know. I think it got picked up by the algorithm just a little bit,
Yeah.
just a little bit, and then I just started having all these like content creators reach out to me and start a conversation about. I was like, this is freaking cool, like, and then I just kept going with it.
Okay.
And tried to make things that were interesting to me. Not always deep dives like that, but just like it just jump started it from there basically for me.
So what was your synopsis of Cover?
I did not like them at all.
No?
Oh my gosh, no. The whole thing with them too is they make it seem okay. Let me put it this way, right? When you have car insurance, we all have deductibles we had to meet, right, and all that. But after that, like they pay for it. You don't have to pay that money back to them, right?
Right.
But Cover, I couldn't find any reviews online about people actually getting payouts from them. Like they would just make it so hard, and if they did pay you out, you wouldn't get that check for like 3 weeks, well past when you actually needed it. And unless you were paying $70 for like their highest tier, you had to pay that money back to them that they lent out to you. And yeah, and to cancel, the cherry on top, if you wanted to cancel it, you couldn't even get into the website unless you gave them your phone number and your email. Like you couldn't even see the information on there. So you had to give them personal information. And yeah, if you ever wanted to cancel it, you couldn't just go into the website and cancel it as you normally do. You had to send an email, and I tried doing this. I had to like call my bank and be like, think this is fraud, but you have to send them an email and they reply to you back and they're like, oh, if you could just find this 20-digit ID code that we sent you 6 months ago and send that to us, then we can start the 2-week process of canceling your subscription. I was like, oh hell no. And when you look up the IP too, and again, this is in the video, like I did probably way too much diving into them, but when you look up the IP, I can't even remember, but it was like some offshore island that has no laws basically. So if you wanted to come at them, you weren't getting any help.
I'll give you an update. I just Googled them, and then it brought me to the rideshare guy, and it said that this was last updated on February 7th, 2023. And you click on Cover, and it says website expired.
Yep, that makes sense.
So burned hot and fast, didn't work. I mean, I understood. You're gonna have that in a new thing. People are gonna come out of the woodwork. I think there was an insurance company for a while that was specifically focused just on gig workers that was out for a bit, and then they pulled it back. I don't think they went under, but they decided.
Yeah.
Well, and this was before all the insurance companies started adding riders.
I mean, I think there is a place for that out there. I know we're kind of getting off topic big time, but that's okay. That's what the show's about.
It's called what's it called? Those fast loans.
Yeah, oh yeah, those payday loans.
Payday loans. Yeah, there you go.
Oh gosh. But I think wrapping it up, I think there is a place for that out there because gig work can be so like it's like you're worried about car repairs and stuff like that, so it can be. I think it's out there, but it can be something that could take advantage of people really easy, and obviously it didn't
Oh,
work out for
absolutely.
them.
But I mean, I think you, Faith, you touched on it a little bit about, and I think it's, good on you for actually doing the research, because how many drivers out there, how many gig workers don't do any of that? They just
No.
kind of, dive headfirst into things and just do it, right? But
Right.
that's the, I guess, the good and the bad about the gig economy is there's very few requirements you have to do to become a gig worker, and so it's harder to protect yourself because it's so easy
Yeah.
to just dig into stuff. And so we are so hungry to have services that protect us, and so it's easy for services like this and probably 100 other ones out there that we don't know about, that is just, they're kind of scammy. They're not really. They started with a good idea, but then they turn into some scam thing, whatever. And
Yeah.
exactly. And so that's where I think that's part of why there's this big discussion about, 1099 W-2. And I'm not getting in any of that, but it's the protection of the worker too, right? I had a question, Faith. And so I know we were talking about your create, you being a creator, but I wanted to touch a little bit about. I asked you a question. So you're living in Vermont right now, and you're saying in your area you don't really have. There's no people dashing is not a thing or whatever, and there's not a market. Say some fancy new gig app appeared and it was a good market. Would you see yourself doing that more regular next to your W-2 job? I mean, are you just done with Dash? Are you just done with gig work because it's too stressful, or do you see yourself kind of possibly taking that on if something new and because that's the thing about the gig economy is it's always changing.
Right. No, that's a great question. I absolutely would do it for side money, just that extra
Yep.
expendable income. And that's it did click for me when I went back to mass and I was like, oh wow, it's still it is still really good money, as long my only contention is if they did roll out those guardrails that we were talking about, where
Yeah.
they're forcing you to do the hourly or whatever else it may be, like the top, like even that top dasher thing. I'm not fully caught up on that quite yet, but I've seen that they're forcing people to have certain stats, right, to get bigger orders. That wasn't
Hmm.
if that stuff got fully rolled out, yeah, I would just completely leave at least the food delivery behind. But, you know, I still have the gig worker in me, like the
Yep.
drive and everything. So if the criteria was met, there wasn't guardrails, I could play that game the way I wanted to play it. Absolutely. I would continue to do it. Just on
Yeah.
a much less stressful front, because especially with the way inflation's going, I'd like to own a house before I'm 75.
Yeah.
That'd
Good
be
luck with
cool.
that.
Just I'd rather be putting the money, towards something than just oh, cool, all my savings is going towards a new car that I'm going to need,
Right.
in the
Yeah.
next however many. So
Well, as we wrap up, Steve had sent me a text and wanted to do an intervention on this podcast about your content creating and how he thinks that you should switch over to doing snowboard content instead of DoorDash content, and that
let's see.
he wants you to do that, and he will be your biggest cheerleader and help you do
Oh,
that.
Steve. Oh my gosh. The backcountry king himself.
I
Because
know.
I'm married. This is an intervention I have with myself every day.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. I mean, if you that's the thing. Like you gotta say to yourself, I like creating the content. You got to make time for it. You got to do that. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
I was totally joking. Steve didn't text me.
But
No, but
I do think I
fair.
do want to. I would like to add though, real quick, Faith, that I think you've proven that you're really good at creating content. I mean, let's say
Thank you.
that. Right? No, I mean, and definitely, it's very interesting. I mean, I mean, truth, I've only watched a couple of your videos, and it has been a while, but what I saw was really good, and just honest and raw, and I like that, and I think a lot of people like that as well, and so I think that the side of this, I guess, is I want you to create more content, right? Because it's not just all the it's not all the fake videos that's being posted everywhere, all the time. This is you talking about real stuff, difficult decisions and stuff like that. And so I think that's something people actually want to see and does add value.
Yeah, and I think that's just something I need to be like honest about. Like, obviously, the gig part of my life is kind of done.
Yeah,
for the most part, and I'm so happy with the new chapter I have. And there's like so many, adventures that I've gone on that I have like compiled a ton of videos. And like I was telling you before we even got into this, it's just like I just have not been able to decide, like, do I just force this onto the Dash or Pass channel or just go ahead and send it? And which is not a big deal to start over, It's really not.
I think if you're just honest with them, if they love you, if they were there for you, then I think they'll transfer over. I mean, if they were there just for gig stuff, well, it's part of the deal. Like, I don't think I'd ever force it on somebody. For a quick example, and then we'll wrap up. I had a podcast for 4 or 5 years, roughly. It ended, and it was hard, and it sucked. And a year later, we started something else with the same people. But we're not putting it on the same channel. We're creating a new one. But on that channel, I did run an ad for 30 days that we are starting a new one. And then after that 30 days, I'm going to shut it back down and be like, I'm done with it. So I think there's room for that kind of stuff. Like I said, if they liked your content or liked you, I think they would jump over for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, any closing thoughts for your super fan Steve, as he just loves you so much, and I love when Steve gets in here. It's just the best.
Also, Steve. I know Steve makes great snowboarding videos as well, and I hope I can follow the king up, because that is the direction I would like to move in for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And can't wait to see you in Colorado again, Steve.
So obviously you can see.
Oh, hi Hannibal and John. Sorry.
Yep, John and Hannibal are on. Thank you guys. Obviously, Dash or Pass on YouTube. Look for her new content, possibly. But we won't hold her to that, because I know it's a big decision to do that kind of stuff. So don't feel like you have to do it, but I think people would enjoy it. So
absolutely.
All right, we will see you guys next week, 8 p.m. Eastern, for our regular show. And Faith, stay on the line, and see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
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 This podcast is produced and edited by Hey Guys Media Group. Want to start a podcast? Check out heyguysmediagroup.com.